All right. Well, it's 2 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. We may have a few more people hop on, but welcome everybody to SCORE Southwest Missouri Tuesdays at 2. Today's session is Accessibility in Business, Common Problems that Harm Your Customer Service with our presenter, Arianna Russell, and I will introduce her in just a moment. Our Tuesdays at 2 series is presented in partnership with the Springfield-Greene County Library District. That is my employer. My name is Katie Pattison. I am the workshop chair for SCORE Southwest Missouri and the branch manager for the Springfield-Greene County Library. Usually I say that the library does for business. But today I want to talk about just one thing, which is a little training we have. It's called Build Your Business with Reference Solutions. Reference Solutions is a database you can get for free. Has capabilities of building consumer mailing lists, researching businesses, lots of really great information. It's very powerful. And it would be very expensive if you're using it on your own, but you can use it free with your library card. We have Andrew Russell coming from Reference Solutions down here to Springfield, 2 to 4 p.m. in cooperation with their website, SBDC Springfield, or you can call that number there on the screen, 837-2609 to register. We'd love to see you there. Okay. Before I introduce Arianna, I want to tell you just a little bit about SCORE. SCORE is a nationwide nonprofit that is there for you for the life of your business. We have mentoring and resources to support you from business idea to exit. 3 things to know about how SCORE can help you. We provide free business advice and mentoring. So you can request a SCORE mentor, an experienced business person here locally, or if you have a really specialized business or specialized need, you can access SCORE mentors all over the US. We also offer low or no cost business training, just like the session you're in right now. And there are free business templates and resources on the SCORE website. Lots of cool stuff there. We use it all the time in the library when people come in and ask business questions. It's a great free resource. You can find that at score.org. Here are just a few upcoming workshops, our next couple Tuesdays at 2. So the next one is Get Psyched for UX. So if you have a website and you want to make your website more customer centric, this session is for you. That is on May 24th at 2 p.m. That one is sponsored by the Christian County Library, so we're excited to welcome them the SCORE. And then library tools for your business. So I mentioned Reference Solutions. We're going to talk about that in the library tools for your business session, as well as some other cool library resources you may not know about that can help you start or grow a business. Everything that's volunteers nationwide. We have over 10,000 volunteers serving over 1,500 communities. If you're looking for a way to get involved in the business community, give back to the business community, this is a great organization to make connections with and kind of share your expertise and your talent with our Springfield business community. You can do that by filling out a application at score.org/volunteer, or if you're just curious what it's all about, do hit any of us up. Me, Arianna also happens to be a SCORE volunteer. Mackenzie, who's our other panelist, whose face is not showing right now, but you'll see her on the screen and you can message her. We'd love to tell you a little bit more about our experience. There she is. Hi, Mackenzie. And you can also call or visit us online. There's the phone number on the screen, our local chapter website where you'll find all of our upcoming workshops at swmissouri.score.org. And now I'd like to introduce our presenter, Arianna Russell. Arianna Russell is an inventor, a 3-time brand ambassador for Daymond Johns. Arianna loves talking about customer service and being accessible to all. She has years of experience in customer service and traveling the country doing trade shows and networking with a wide variety of groups. She currently runs the Ozark Community Garden and is focused on her passion project of bringing resources to the community through Help Connect. Welcome, Arianna.
Hi there.
I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can share yours. All right.
Share. Please hold while I click a few buttons. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, let's move that so it'll let me share it. All right, all good?
Yes, looks good.
Okay, perfect. Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's enjoying the weather today. It's not raining, so that's a plus. First, I wanted to say thank you to Katie, who helps put on a lot of the workshops for SCORE, as well as Mackenzie and many others. But Katie always is accessible, and that's one of the things that we'll be talking about today. So I just wanted to say thank you, Katie, for all that you do for SCORE and the library and our community in general. So my name's Arianna Russell, born and raised here in Ozark, Missouri, but Springfield area. Today, we are going to be talking about common business problems that could harm your customer service. One of the things that I'm very passionate about is customer service. So I'll dive into a little bit about myself to add to what Katie said. Customer service is one of my passions. I specialize in helping businesses improve their customer service when dealing with individuals with disabilities. I'm a 3-time brand ambassador for Daymond Johns. I've been in my first product at the age of 21. I was very fortunate enough to travel the country and get to do trade shows, network with a lot of different groups, and learn a lot. At the end of the day is what it's all about. And I've been featured on ABC World News multiple times, and I've grown produce for over 12 years and absolutely love it. I don't know if any of you guys or gals have grown produce, but it's just something peaceful about it. So today we are going to be talking about customer service basics. We'll do a little bit of story time and talk about some business flaws, ways to improve, as well as improvements to your business. So a lot of times I want to ask you, like, what does a person with a disability look like? So if you want to put stuff in the comments, you're able to, but as you can see, like in this picture, a lot of times people have a disability that you can't see or they don't share with you. So that's one of the things that with my background and being able to look at things, I guess, from my perspective, is something that I love talking to people about. So I am actually dyslexic and I am ADHD. So I learn very differently and I'm a very visual learner. If you give me a book and tell me to read it, I'm going to pass it off and say, hey, will you please summarize this for me? Because I learn differently. So it does make me different, but we all have our different things that we deal with, and being accessible and having good customer service to all is something that is like the top priority on my list and passions in life. So we'll talk a little bit about some common questions. So from a customer service perspective, whether you're in a business now or you're looking to start a business, you're in the right place. But one of the things that is most important is customer service. If you don't treat your clients good and you don't offer good service, then it's going to be tough. So one of the things that you could ask is, does your staff know how to desecrate a situation if you've got an angry customer? Is your staff trained to assist someone who is maybe blind or deaf or is having troubles understanding what you're saying? For example, if somebody has a hard time hearing, and can you over streamline your processes? So if you answered no to any of those questions, your staff might need some more assistance and training when it comes to customer service. And it doesn't matter if you've been in business for 2 weeks or 2 years. In my personal opinion, I always think that there is always room for improvement, because at the end of the day, there is no book on life, as in we all go down these different paths and we all have different backgrounds and experiences, but we have to learn from what other people's experiences are to be able to come together and treat people better and have better customer service or better services for our customers. So we'll talk about a few different key points of customer service. So we'll talk about personalized, competent, convenient, and proactive. So when it comes to the personalized, we've got a do and a don't. So whenever you're doing customer service, you always want to make sure that your customers know that you actually truly care about their problems. So for example, if someone leaves a bad review, how do you address that? Do you just ignore it? Because that's on the don't list. So I would never recommend, no matter how bad a review is, to ignore that. Always maybe write letters. People love the actual physical letters that you mail to them, or you drop it off at their office. Obviously, if they're across the country, an email or a video, personalized video to them would be great. And address the problem as soon as you can. You know, we've got all of these different technology platforms, so it is hard to keep track of where what is, but the better and quicker that you can address a problem, the better your customers are going to experience that with you. And people do remember that. So whenever it comes to customer service, you don't want to ignore the issues. I know it is hard, or it is easier to just kind of, you know, push it off to the side, but that one person or one business could be your customer and they just don't have time to reach out to you. So they post something on Facebook or they leave a bad review. And if you don't address that, then you don't have the opportunity to keep that customer or to gain that customer. And people talk. So we want to try to be there and personalize things as much as possible for that specific issue or bad review in this case. Don't ever blame the customer. There are many opportunities and times that you're like, this is when I should do it, Arianna, but you don't understand. But try not to do that, and try not to have cookie cutter responses to their problems. People always like the personalization of having that experience with your business. Like, what separates you from your competitors? The next is competent. So again, do and don't. You can see the structure kind of the same. So do, on the customer service, know the product inside and out. So if you have somebody new coming in and they aren't sure of, you know, maybe ask them some questions if you're training someone. That way, no matter who they're talking to in your business, the customer service will kind of have the same vibe. Nothing worse, in my opinion, than going to a business and having one person say something and another person say another thing. And that's going to happen. You know, you're never going to be able to solve all of those problems, but being able to explain what your product or service is very important. And are you able to solve the problem for your customer? If you don't ever have an answer for that and you have somebody come to you, then just be like, ma'am or sir, I don't know the answer to that, but let me find out for you and I will get back to you. So don't bounce the customer from person to person or department to department. I don't know about any of you, but I'm just going to go ahead and raise my hand. Have you ever, I'm asking you all a question, have you ever been bounced from department to department and finally you're just like, I don't have time for this, I'm hanging up, and you don't want to deal with that business again? That happens all the time. And it's not the person's fault. A lot of times it's like, wow, how did they not know that? Sometimes it's they haven't been educated or trained on how to properly deal with an issue. So yeah. And don't allow untrained individuals to try to handle customer problems. That will just end very badly for the most part. So now we will talk about convenient. So do make it easy for your customers to be able to go blah, 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 to be able to contact you about their problems. Because if people don't go to businesses, whether it's good or bad, and you don't know that, then you can't fix it. So I always, a lot of times, like if there's a good customer service somewhere, I'll be like, hey, ma'am or sir, can I talk to your manager? And usually they're like, what did I do? And it's like, no. It's not always bad. And then you talk to the manager and they're like, well, thank you. And people usually only go because of the bad experiences. But in my experience, letting people know, hey, you're doing good. The world that we live in is a very hard place sometimes. And we don't get told enough that we're doing something good, or, hey, you helped me today and I very much appreciate you. I think that's very important. And then also, don't hide your customer service number or a way for them to reach out to you. again, raise your hand because I'm going to go ahead and raise mine. But I'm asking you all, have you ever tried to reach out to a company or cancel a free subscription and not be able to find the information, or it takes you hours to solve one little problem that could have taken like 20 minutes to be able to do? Again, people remember that stuff. The faster you can take care of a customer, the more that you can give them, the more that they're going to remember. And you, as your business with your service or product, is going to stand out. And proactive. So do make customers aware of problems before they can be a problem. And then don't hide issues until confronted about them. So if you get somebody that complains about something, don't try to just shove it away and open the drawer and shove it away. Actually really dive into, okay, what was that problem and how can I, as the business owner or employee or staff member, help make the customer's experience better? Because oftentimes I think businesses and people forget that customers are just like us. We all have our bad days, we all have our good days, but the better we can show up and learn and treat each other better, that's just going to be a better customer experience. And try to, like, if somebody doesn't know that you don't know, I mean, we all have those things that we don't know everything. I know I don't, I learn every day. So make customers aware of those problems so that they're like, oh, wow, that business is admitting, hey, this is what we did wrong and this is what we're doing to fix it. I don't know about all of you, but I respect that from businesses, because oftentimes it is just shoved in the top drawer and never talked about. So now I'm going to go on to a little bit of story time. Who all loves story time? Sorry, it kind of reminds me of like when I was in school. Good stories are good. So story number 1. Did any of you guys or gals been to Sam's Club? Again, I'm going to raise my hand. So as you'll see in this picture here, so what Sam's Club used to be is none of this used to be here. You used to just be able to walk up, make your order, and then go over here and sit down and eat your food or just drink your water or whatever it is that you have. Well, kind of, I think it was like around COVID, don't quote me on the date, but in the past few years, they have expanded and have these machines, these robots, machines, I guess we'll say. And oftentimes, me being how I am, I'll sit and people watch and just kind of learn and look at how businesses could improve customer service. Well, one time I went in there, well, multiple times I've went in there, and I'll watch, especially when they had these new machines out, and they didn't have anybody at the back where you could talk to them, find out, can you make this special for me? Or does this have something in it? Because I'm allergic to this. You had to go to these machines. And it was right when they released this, and multiple people were like, it's like deer in headlights. They didn't know what to do. They were very caught off guard because, us as humans we're used to having that person-to-person interaction. And so one time I went up to older people, and I was like, hey, can I help you? Because you could tell that they were getting really frustrated. And they're like, do you work here? I was like, nope, I just could tell that you were struggling, and I understand because it's kind of frustrating sometimes. So with that being said, a few ways that this could be fixed. Please hold while I get a drink. Is they could have a human available. And Sam's could have a person that's available to help when someone needs it. Not all the time, maybe, but I kind of would recommend a way to fix this is implement it slowly. Don't just one day, you go in and you see a human and you're talking to a person, you exchange that payment and you get the food. And then the next day you go in and you're like, what do I do? Because it was thrown at you very quickly. So have a human, have a person, I keep saying human, but I mean, that's what we all are, but have a person take you to the order machine and, kind of open it up, show the person how to do it and see what people do and implement around what works with actual customers instead of, trying it how they did. And I'm not saying how they did it was completely wrong. I just see ways that I feel that they could do better, because that makes a lot of people upset and not feel, valued. Like, I can't get help. And that's not what you want with a business. All right, story number 2. So have any of you all heard of American Idol? I actually have worked with them multiple times. They came to Branson, and then I went up to Kansas City and worked with them. That's the bus in the background down at Branson. And I'm going to share just a quick story. Oh, whoops, I almost cheated. So my story with experience with American Idol was I was in Kansas City, and I was at the front when all the contestants and their families and judges and everybody comes through. They walk right past where we were at, and we were welcoming them. And to keep this kind of short, there was everybody got checked in, and then I look over there and I see this family, these 2 parents and this daughter, really struggling. And it was kind of like, anger. Like you could just look over and tell that these people were angry. And so I did what I wasn't supposed to do, that I kind of got in trouble for after the fact, because I didn't think of it. I saw somebody that needed help, so I just went over there. And it was this family, this mom and dad was deaf. And so the American Idol colleague of mine didn't know how to address that. They were just like, kind of, I don't know what you're saying. So I went over there and pulled out my phone, and I started to type a message, and I said, my name's Arianna. How can I help you? And so they took my phone and they typed back. And so that is how we communicated. And afterward, like, they almost were in tears. And it was just that like relief. Like, you're trying to talk to somebody, but the way that they were talking, because they couldn't hear, they were deaf, was different. Like, I can hear when somebody talks to me. So with all of that being said, a few ways that they may fix that or improve that was ask at check-in for needs. So when the people at that table that I was saying, everybody that went by, put together a pamphlet or something that they could, or ask even before they get there. So then you, as American Idol or your business, can address that and ask prior to arrival if contestants have special needs, if they have food sensitivities, if they need any other assistance, or whatever that situation is. Every business and service is going to be different. So you just have to kind of do maybe research of, how can I, as a business that sells produce, or as a video company or social media, how can I be accessible to all of my clients? And then also you train staff on how to handle all abilities. So not just people who can talk, not all people that just can walk, but take into consideration people if they're handicapped or deaf or they can't see, and try to be there for them the best that they can, or that you can. And talk to your staff and train them how to handle different situations that can arise. It won't arise all the time, but that way, when it does happen, you're not caught off guard. And that one customer could leave because you, as the business, didn't know. Not that you were trying to not respect them or be kind to them, but oftentimes people just don't think about those types of things. All right, story number 3. I like this. I'm sorry, I just have to point this out. That would be fun to do. I would not recommend it because those don't go fast enough to do smoke like that. But so has anyone been to Target? I'm raising my hand a lot today. So I was in Target many years ago with my mom, and she was in one of these electric scooters, and we were in the clothing aisle looking at something. And my mom, nearly multiple times since I was a child, and I'm 34 now, so go figure the math on that one. It's been a few years. She would go around in her scooter that Target has, sometimes not charged, so you have to find one that's charged or walk. But she almost took the clothing racks out multiple times. There's been times that I've had to grab it and pull it and scoot it. So that kind of is frustrating in retail stores and oftentimes many different places because places aren't designed most of the time, and I'm not saying all the time, most of the time to be accessible for all people. So ways that Target or any retail store could fix and improve this could be put the needs of your customers first, not the product. So I want to say that again, because so put the needs of your customers first, not your product. So put safety and needs of the customers first, not the products that you sell. I know some people are like, that's crazy, Arianna. But the more accessible and friendly and welcoming you make something or a place, the better experience your customers are going to have. So make it easy for people to give you feedback as well. I know many a times I've went to management and very politely, even if I'm really frustrated, like, I mean, if a thing like that fell on my mom or somebody else, like they could get hurt. That's a clothing rack, you know, with lots of clothes on it or anything that could fall. So make it easy for people to give you feedback, whether that's good or bad. But if you don't know, you don't know, and then you can't fix it if you don't know. But have someone constantly asking what they, as a business or a brand, can do to better their customer service to make people feel more welcome and you be able to serve them better. So some smart practices that I typically like to say is training, update, and accessibility. So the first one is the training. So take the time to teach your staff to be prepared for encountering different people with different needs. This, especially now more than ever, is a must because now is a little bit different. So I'm going to take you way back. I know the last few years in the world, like COVID and everything has affected every single person in the world. And not oftentimes does one thing affect everyone, but COVID did. So the world shift and we're all still learning. There's no handbook that says, hey, here's what happened and figure it out. So we're all trying to stay on top of, you know, keeping our customers happy, keeping us happy, putting our needs first. And it's like sometimes the bottom of the totem pole, I guess we'll say, is taking the time to sit down because you have financials, you have a business to run, you have to make this amount of money to stay afloat. And businesses now are struggling. So one of the things that we can do is really train our staff. If you're not a professional and you don't know what and how to really help and make things more accessible, look outside, do YouTube videos. There are things out there that are, you know, hard to find. It takes a lot of time to research, but at the end of the day, it can really help your business and your customers and your employees by taking the time to train them. And then the second is update. So have monthly meetings to make sure that everyone is aware of NEC, there's my dyslexia. Have monthly meetings to make sure that everyone is aware of NEC. Wow. Any policy changes. Because we all get busy, and if we could schedule meetings with, you know, whether it's just you or 3 other staff members or it's just you and 10 volunteers, get other people involved, do those regular updates about the policy changes and ask, hey, talk to your customers, how can we, go into the third one, make this more accessible? So making sure your staff and business can help people with different disabilities will put your business above your competition. A lot of times, especially when you get into some small and also big businesses, they forget that piece and it's not a top focus. In my opinion, and you can take this for what it's worth, it is important people remember how you make them feel over how sometimes good your product or service was. Your service is a little bit different because your service, you know, you're really talking to people more versus a product. Sometimes, you know, you sell them a cup and then you don't ever see them again because you don't follow up. But make sure that your staff has the information, you do the research, you train them, you update people, and you try to be as accessible as possible. And this isn't a one size fits all. You're not going to do the same things now that you did 5 years ago. A lot of those you will, but it's super important to really, take yourself outside of your position, whether you're the owner, employee, contractor, or volunteer, or whatever it is, and be like, hey, if I was this person, or if I was going to this business, how do I want to feel when I leave? Remember that next time you're rethinking, hey, how can I become more accessible? How can I be more welcoming? How can I maybe get more business? Because at the end of the day, yes, you have to take care of your customers. You want to be maybe more accessible, but you don't know how. So just ask people, really have those conversations and be honest. Be like, hey, I really want to be more accessible. I want to have better customer service, but I don't know what the problem is. Usually, if you really take a step back and look at it from a different perspective and ask people those uncomfortable questions and reply to those bad reviews that we were talking about earlier, usually you can find ways to be more accessible and have better customer service so that it doesn't harm your business in a bad way. It helps your business in a good way. So some things that you can put in place is processes for your staff to be able to learn and grow, because you don't want to just learn and not grow. I mean, learning and growing kind of go together, but you can learn and not grow. So don't ever assume that all people are the same, because we're not. So for those of you that don't know me, or this is the first time that we've crossed paths, you may not know, if I didn't tell you, that I have ADHD. So I grew up in special ed all years in middle school, elementary, through graduation. I was in special ed. And until actually last month, I was not aware. I mean, I thought I knew I had ADHD, but I was actually diagnosed about 5 weeks ago. So now I'm like, wow, like my brain's not broken. It's just wired differently. And so some things that you could put in place is those processes so that we can learn and that we can grow, and don't just assume that we're all the same. We are all human, but we all have different paths and different things that we're going through. Another thing to put in place is talk to all audiences and those that you serve. So you can also train employees and staff on how to handle. I apologize if I sneeze. I just feel it coming on, and I just wanted to give you all a heads up of that. But train employees and staff to handle someone who's blind or maybe in a wheelchair. So like, what can you as a business do right now to be able to be more accessible? So maybe that's, if you have a customer, you have kind of like earlier we were talking about how at American Idol, we were talking about, they could put something in place to ask the attendees before they get there. So that could be the same thing that you could put in place for your business, whether you have a service or a product, and say, ask your customers, what is it that, this is where you're going to go. This is where we're going to meet. Is there anything special, or is there anything that I can help assist you with? Put the customer first. And then hopefully you're doing that in a way that's genuine, and that will show. People remember that. And be cautious of disabilities and food requirements, and also be aware of what other people's needs are. Because oftentimes, again, you can't see ADHD until I get, kind of swirly, and you're like, I think she's got ADHD. That's because I do. But some people don't. They're just, super hyper or active, or yeah. But just be aware of what other people's needs are, and be respectful, and show, hey, I really want to know how I can become better and learn from other people's mistakes as well. So that's something that you can put in place, is see what other people are doing, fill those gaps, and just try your best to do it better. And then lastly, make sure employees know that it's okay to help customers when it's needed. open doors, hey, can I help you load your groceries? And maybe get something on the shelf that they cannot reach. Oftentimes, that's not something, you're expected to do certain things. And I think in customer service, a lot of the things that are getting lost is we as a society are putting the needs of ourself and our business over the needs of our customers and those that are around us. Sometimes the littlest things, opening someone's door or loading their groceries, it means a lot to them. You never know what somebody's going through. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean that they're not struggling, just like all of us struggle in some way. So we've said this quite a few times, well, maybe a couple, but look at what other businesses are doing, because why not learn from what other people are doing so that we can improve what we do? It's important to take a look at your business and also those that you work with to see if you're even accessible to everyone. If I would have thought of this, I would have included something to have you all do, kind of a little checklist of, hey, Arianna, I want to be more accessible. I think I'm pretty accessible, but how do I know? And then you could have filled out the check thing, but that's okay. Okay, I think I went through that pretty fast. We still got 20 minutes, but I'd kind of like to do a Q&A. If you want to reach out to me, feel free to. This is really something that I'm passionate about. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then we can do some Q&A and have conversations.
Thank you. Okay, so if you have questions, you can either put them in the chat or in the Q&A feature. Looks like we've got one already from Billy. How do you communicate that you're accessible with your audience?
Ooh, Billy, that's a good question. Okay, so first you're going to, well, it depends on what you have out there already, what people know about you, but what I would do, okay, so Billy has Mountain Pine Studios. She does photography and videography. I said that right, yes. And so I would look at what other people are doing specifically in your industry. And it doesn't have to be in your industry also, but just put that on your marketing material, especially if people in doing photography and videography aren't talking about that. Make sure people know that, because if they don't think that they can get to your facility or your business for a photo shoot or to do a video, they're not going to want to maybe reach out. So just by putting that in the front and center of your marketing material and just welcoming people, I think that would be a very good way to start. Good question, Billy.
Okay. I don't have any other questions in the chat yet or the Q&A, but please feel free to add those folks. And Arianna, I have a question. So more on the, early on, you're talking about customer service and responding to negative reviews and things like that. How do you differentiate between like a problem you can genuinely address and somebody who's just really cranky? I don't know.
So I'm going to share, since we got out of time, I want to share a little bit of a story. So back in end of 2012, I was featured for the first time on ABC World News with Diane Sawyer and David Muir. And so what had happened was I invented an iPhone case that I kept 100% made in America. It was for my company at the time that I've closed and moved on from, called Bodacious Cases. It was a phone case that was two-piece snapped together, and then it had a band that went around the outside to help keep the two pieces together. And I got an email from a producer of ABC World News. Yeah, I almost deleted that one. Thank goodness I didn't. But the reason why I want to share this story is it was almost Christmas. And so we loaded up and went to St. Louis to the manufacturer and had problem after problem. I could go literally a list all the way down the screen. Got an email and then a phone call from a lady that was furious that her product wasn't going to get to her for her kid for Christmas. I called, as the owner of the company, the inventor, I took that phone number and called her. And I was like, ma'am, I'm really sorry. I don't know if I can guarantee the product to be there. And you would have thought that I cussed the woman out and said anything possible to offend her. And she just kept going and going and going. And I was just like, I'm sorry, I'll send an extra van. What can I do to make this right? Sometimes you can't say anything or do anything. So I don't want to say obviously always be kind, but just do the best that you can and kind of try to respond in the best way, the most professional way. Don't say the things that you really think that you should. Try to keep it somewhat professional, but don't let people overstep and treat you disrespectfully, because we all deal with enough of stuff in life that, you have to stand up for yourself also. So it's kind of that fine line of how to separate them.
Great. Okay. Any other questions for Arianna while we have her here? So you mentioned a checklist for people. Is that something that you have available?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we could probably send it out with our follow-up email. So if a lot of you are on these workshops all the time, so you probably already know this, but some of you may be new to our workshops. We always do a follow-up email that includes the recording of the session and anything else that we want to include. Arianna's contact info, but if you've got that checklist, I'm sure people would love to have that. I know I would like to look at that for my facility.
Yes.
Okay. Last chance for questions.
I feel like we need a drum roll.
Yes. Okay. Nothing else coming up here. So we will wrap it up. Thank you everybody for joining us today for Tuesdays at 2. I hope we'll see you at our next session. Ooh, I do want to plug one thing while we're on here. The SCORE E3 Women's Conference coming up in September 13th and 14th. And right now the call for presenters is open. So if you have some expertise on any topic that would be useful to small business owners or people thinking about starting a business, thank you. There we go. You can go to the website at e3score.org. You'll find all the information about the conference. You can register. There's still early bird pricing right now for $99. That's through May 31st, and we're taking speaker proposals through the 27th. And men are allowed to speak. That question comes up sometimes. It's a women's conference, but you're allowed to speak if you're a man. So yeah, we'd love to see a proposal from some of you. So thank you everybody for joining us today, and we'll see you all next time.